Okay. I guess this is recording and broadcasting now. I don't really use this very often, so I don't know how it works. But yeah, I went through the basic setup stuff from the README, and that all seems to work pretty well. I think one of my first questions, like getting set up, is there a way to like live reload everything and develop that way, or do I have to build a new dist every time and like sync that with Chrome and stuff?
Live reload, or do you mean rebuild, automatic rebuild? It's because you can have, so you can watch and rebuild, but it wouldn't live reload.
Okay, well, I mean, it doesn't have to like refresh itself, but just to avoid having to, let me see, I've never done Chrome stuff before, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me see here.
Okay,
so when you use the load unpacked extension to like upload your dist,
right.
So you're saying there's a way to not have to keep clicking that?
Yeah, you upload it once. So you upload it once, and then okay. So want me to okay. So 1 second. Let's see. So we have the README. Okay. Want me to share the screen?
Yeah, if you want to share your screen, we can go over the initial steps.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we go to Chrome extensions, and we load the unpacked extension, right? So where do you load it? So let's say it's in forks. Okay, so we're gonna load the dist folder, right? Dist and the Chrome, because it's for Chrome. So I've already loaded it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let me start an application. Okay. Okay, so here's the inspector. So as you notice, there's the Ember dev. The name of the tab is Ember dev. That way you can have the published inspector and the one we're developing, and you can tell the difference between the two when you click on them.
Okay.
So the command is yarn run watch. That's it. So if you forget it, it's building and testing in the README. So if you want to build once, you run yarn run build. But if you wanna be developing, you're gonna want to run watch so that it rebuilds every time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So So as you can see here, it's actually watching the files. So anytime we change something, so let's say main, let's console the new code. Okay, I save. When I save, it's going to rebuild, but it won't refresh. So I'm going to need to refresh that. Once I do, you can see new code. Yeah, do you see it? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when you want to work on it, you need to watch, and then every time you save, you need to reload. I think you may need to reload twice every time.
Okay.
I have no idea why. So 1, 2, and it works. Okay. So that's now that's usually how you would work.
Okay.
Except if you're only working in the inspector part. Oh, okay. So are you aware that the inspector is actually two different code bases that run in different environments? Okay.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's actually it's the same repo, but do you see the Ember debug directory here?
Mm-hmm.
So everything inside that directory runs in a different environment from the rest of the app.
Okay.
Now because we have the actual inspector, which is an Ember app in itself, and we have the code that goes into the client application and like starts to set up hooks and listening to stuff and inspecting stuff. So the part that is inside the Ember debug directory is the code that ends up mixed with the client application, which is like the app we're inspecting.
Okay.
So everything in here in Ember debug runs in the app, along with the app in the same environment as the app we're debugging, and everything else is just the normal Ember CLI app directory. It's this one. It's the inspector. The actual like the actual Ember application, that is the inspector. Okay. Now, usually you may be working on both sides, on both like you're working. Let's say you're working on the view tree. So today you open the pull request. That is that updates the Glimmer tree. Correct. Now the code you updated actually does not run in the inspector in the Ember inspector app. It actually runs in the client application.
Okay.
So that's why we need to account for all the versions, for the different versions, because we don't know the environment in which that code will be running.
Gotcha. Okay. So the ones that are run actually in inspector, we can kind of control, and we don't have to account for both because we know the versions. Gotcha. Okay.
Correct. Now, if you're only working on the inspector, so like you already have all the data you need, you just want to add a search feature, let's say. For example, we can, like together, we're going to add the search route feature. Okay. And now we have all the data we need, which means we don't really need to work on the Ember debug part of the inspector. Okay. When we do that, we can actually use something else, which is instead of using the Chrome DevTools to develop, we can actually use the Bookmarklet, which is so there are many ways to run the inspector. One of them is the Bookmarklet. Okay, so you add this code as a Bookmarklet, and it opens the inspector in a new tab. Now the advantage of that is that it behaves completely like an Ember app, which means that when we change the code, it actually auto reloads and everything. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how. So I'm gonna close the run watch, and instead I'm gonna run the Bookmarklet server, which is here. This is the code. This starts the Bookmarklet server.
Okay.
Now, you see my bookmark here? So this contains, the Bookmarklet contains this code, which is, you can get it from the README. Okay. And when I click it, it opens a new tab. And this is the inspector. So now this tab is inspecting the app that where I click the Bookmarklet. Okay. So I'm in this app here, and I click the Bookmarklet, and now this inspector here is going to be inspecting this app. Okay. Okay. The nice thing about it is now like I have the entire tab to myself, and it's no longer DevTools. It's actually a normal tab, a normal Ember app, which means that when I I change something, it reloads. And when I log something, what did I use? It logs. It's just a regular app. I can like add the debugger and everything.
Okay.
Okay. So when you're going to be working just on the inspector, it's better to use this. It's just like much easier because you have like a normal app that you're working with. If you're going to be working with both, you're going to need to do what we did before.
Okay.
Okay. So what's next? Let's see. So we can go into details on how Ember debug part works. We can go into detail on how the now the inspector part should be kind of easy because it's just a regular Ember app.
Right.
Now there's one thing you need to know is that okay, so it's correct that we don't know where Ember debug will be executing, the environment in which it will be, but we do know that it's not going to be an Ember version less than 2.7.
Okay.
We know that because we're actually shipping 2 inspectors. A while ago, we had to stop supporting. So the inspector actually supports Ember pre 1.0. So at one point, it became like really hard to support all that. So so what we did is we took a snapshot of the current inspector at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I built it and I stored it on Amazon S3. And then the new version of the inspector dropped support for Ember less than 2.7. And what we do is we actually ship two code bases in the same extension, but with code that detects the Ember version and then chooses which inspector it's going to show.
Okay.
All right. Everything in this repo here is 2.7 plus. Everything less than 2.7, we're going to have to check out this branch, Ember 00 2.7. And
Okay.
it's actually really old. So, and then if we want to, like, let's say, for example, we need to remove jQuery from it, we're going to have to go back to this one as well and remove jQuery.
Gotcha.
All right. Okay. What's next? So let's see. So how does everything happen? Okay. So extensions have something called the content script that execute on every tab that opens. All right. This is just an extension.
Is this the same for like Firefox and other browsers as well? Okay.
Yeah. Firefox has the content script as well.
Okay.
And what it does is it executes every time on any tab, Ember or not, doesn't matter. It's going to execute. And you have access to the DOM, but you don't have access to the environment of the app. Okay, now you're really going to need to work here because this only sets everything up just at the beginning, and then we just work in other places. Now, so what this does is mainly it sets up communication between the DevTools, our inspector, and the client app. And it also takes care of the thumbster that you see at the top of the browser that indicates if it's an Ember app or not.
Okay.
And it also tries to detect iframes because we're supporting iframes. So if you see in the inspector, we have something here, drop down. Actually, if there are many iframes with Ember apps, you can pick which one here.
Okay.
Now, So once everything is set up, so here it sets up communication, and the communication is between our app and Ember debug. And that communication, once set up, is abstracted away into something called a port. Now, the app itself, which is the Ember Inspector DevTools, has port, and Ember debug, which is the code injected into the app, has a port. And this port has a method called sends a message, and the other one also has a send. So they send messages to each other.
Okay.
And they also you can listen to the two messages. So they extend Ember.evented, which means you can do port.on something on a message, and that's how they communicate. Okay. So like if you're building an Ember app, you would be communicating with the server. Here in your Ember app, you actually don't communicate with the server. You communicate with the port, which is just an abstraction to communicating with the client application.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so for example, let's say the Ember Inspector is starting. It would go to the application route, and it's going to set up the listeners. It's going to listen to the port. So if the client application sends an update object event, then it would handle it, update property, update errors, dropped object, deprecation, count. So these are the things that we always want to listen to. Okay, so like this may seem a bit too much at first, but I'm gonna try to make it. Okay. So let's look at the features.
Okay.
So first of all, let's look at the view tree. Right. So we have the view tree, and it's just it's a route. You can see it. It's called view tree.
Okay.
And it fetches the view tree from the client app, and it renders it. That's it. It's just a list. All right. Now, how does it fetch the view tree from the client app? It listens to the port to a message called view tree, and when this event triggers, it receives the view tree as a parameter, which is this one. Okay. Now then it wants to ask the client app for the view tree. So first it sets up the listener, and then it requests it. Once it receives it, it sets it on the model. So if we go to the controller view tree, it's just a controller with the model. The model is an array of views, and you can see it's a list.
Okay.
And it renders the view. Okay, now how does that happen? When we request the get tree, the message goes to view debug. And okay, so I jumped to Ember debug. Now Ember debug is a bit different. Ember debug is not an Ember app, so it has its own organization. So let's start. So for every tab here, for every functionality we need in the inspector, we have a file that handles that thing. Okay, so let's say view tree, right? So we go to view debug. The file is called view debug. Now it's a class, it's an Ember object that expects. So its job is to look into the app, the client app, and get all the views and send them to the Ember inspector. How does it do it? First of all, there's this thing. Okay, so these objects, they have a messages key, and it's like actions in Ember, but it's things the inspector would request. They're messages they would request, and it listens. It's like actions. So get tree, if the inspector sends the get tree message, this is called hide layer, preview layer, everything. So let's go. Let's follow the flow of view tree. So we start off by visiting this route, the view tree route. So we go to the Ember inspector. Here's the view tree. So this is the route. It listens to the view tree event, which comes from the Ember debug part, and then it sends this message, which is view 2 points view to get tree, right? That means this is going to get called. When this is called, we're going to call send tree, and send tree. So here we're going to build the tree from the application. And the way it does it is there's something called the Glimmer Tree, which I think you worked on today. This job is to get all the views from the application. Now, this file is actually much cleaner and much more documented because it's actually more recent. The other is pretty old. So Glimmer Tree is a class that builds the whole tree and returns an object of hierarchy, which is all the views and their hierarchy. And once this is done, we send the message. So the method send message is sent back to the inspector, and the inspector would receive the message here and would handle it in this method. And what it does is it turns the hierarchy, the object, into an array and sets it on the model. And then we loop here and we render it. Clear?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Same thing for the routes, data. They all follow the same concept. So that's the idea. So you go to the route requests information from Ember debug. Ember debug looks into the Ember app, gathers that information, sends it back to the inspector, all of that via the port. So you can see, so send message is actually a method from port mixin.
Okay.
Which just uses the port to send the message. So you listen to messages here, and then you can send back the response. So if you think about it, it's like Ember debug would be the server to the Ember application, which is the Ember inspector.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Okay. So that's it. That's the intro. Do you have any questions?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's kind of a lot to process at once, so I'll probably have to play with it some before I have specific questions.
Okay. All right. So
good intro though.
Okay. Would you want to build a feature, or do you prefer to first take a look and try to see things? What do you prefer?
I think if we did something simple, if you've got the time now, we could go through it real quick.
Okay. You want to add a search for the routes? I think that's simple. Should
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you see here, we're gonna add a search for the routes, which means we're gonna be working with the inspector only. We don't need information from the Ember debug part.
Okay.
Because we already have the routes. So I'm gonna close this, and instead I'm gonna work here.
Okay.
So let's say we want to add a search to the routes. So we go to the route tree, which is here. So this is the route tree. But actually, we want to add the search to the toolbar here, which means we go to the route tree toolbar here.
Okay.
And we're going to add a search just like we added search to the view tree. So I think we can use whatever we have already done in the view tree toolbar. Okay. So search text. So we go to the controller, to the directory controller, and we add the search text here. And filter is gonna, so we're gonna filter this as well. I think we can use the logic that we've already used in the view tree. Okay. So there's a function called search match, which does the search. So we're gonna use it.
Okay.
So it's value.name.
Okay. Nice.
We can go to we can add more routes.
Nice.
We're done. Now all we need to do is add tests for it, and we'll be done. You want to try doing the tests?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna push the branch.
Okay. Okay, let's see.
Okay. We switch.
Yeah, just trying to get the branch real quick. So. Okay. So I don't really know how to get this branch because I don't have. I'm on a fork. It looks
Yeah,
like it might have worked.
You want to add the remote. You want to add the. Do you have the inspector remote locally? Have you set it up?
I mean, I have my fork and I have. Well, we can figure out the commits later. I've got the code. It looks like so.
Oh, you have it. You have the code.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Oh,
just
okay.
I was just trying to figure out how to get your route search branch because I'm on a fork and it's on the main repo. I always mess that up with Git, but it looks like I've got the code. So
yeah, okay.
Okay. So let's see. So the tests, these acceptance tests, unit tests. What are we doing?
Yeah, acceptance.
Okay.
We want the route tree.
Okay. So do we have similar tests in the view tree one?
Yeah, we might have. But it might actually be easier to use the existing tests in the route tree and just add a search. I'm not sure. Like we can try and see.
Trees displayed. Yeah, what would you suggest starting with?
Let's try. Let's try the initial one. What was it? Route tree is displayed, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can try this.
Okay.
So let's copy this and create searching the route tree test. Okay. Now, so do you see the variable we're using, which is route tree? So here we're mocking the port.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the variable route tree where we respond with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the route tree is being pre-filled at the top.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the routes we're gonna get. So when we request the routes, we're gonna get application post, post.new, post.edit.
Okay.
We can try it. So if you go back to the test and you return we return pause test after await visit route tree.
Let me just comment all this out.
Yeah, no need. You're going to return pause test anyway.
Okay. To return
Pause test.
Post test.
Pause. P-A-U-S-E.
Oh, pause test. Okay.
Yeah.
Pause. Okay, so we're just stopping the execution.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we're going to run the tests. So you can run the tests. You just start the server normally, Ember has. And then you open the browser, localhost 4200. Now there's a small difference from a regular Ember app where the tests are not actually found in /tests. They're found at /testing/tests. Yeah, so these are the tests. We want the route tree. You can, I think you can choose the module on top.
Oh,
to the right.
I was just waiting for it to show up, but oh, come on. It won't let me do
it. Try hiding the tests.
Route tree.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, apply. Okay. So this is the one we want. So, yeah, so you can click on rerun so that we can isolate the test. Okay. So do you see the inspector paused at the right of the screen? Okay. So this is what we have. Now we want to fill the search field with a search term and make sure, like, just check that it's been filtered. Okay.
Okay.
So if we go back to the code, we can remove. Wait, let me see. Okay, so here's what we can do. We just need to assert one thing, which is the route names. That's it. We're not testing that everything is being displayed correctly. So so first of all, so let's say we assert the route nodes are 4, correct? The route names are correct. We can keep that, and we can remove everything after that. So which means let route handlers keep the route names. We're going to want to assert them.
Handlers, controllers.
Yeah, we can remove everything.
Any of the rest of this.
Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to fill in the search field. So we're going to use await.
We have Ember native DOM helpers on here? Or?
No, just the regular.
Okay, I didn't know those worked with await, but cool.
Yeah. So JS, it's called JS. I think. What did we call it? It's in route tree toolbar. Can you check?
Route tree toolbar.
Yeah.
JS
filter routes. Yeah. Let's fill it with new. Yeah. And let's pause and just check if we got it correctly. Yeah, that's it. So now we just need to assert.
So should we do both assertions or just check the route names? Or
yeah, both.
Do both? Okay. Post up. Get rid of this. Okay, cool. It works.
Yep. Cool. Okay, so that's it. We're done.
All right, cool. Let's see, how do I get back to the Hangout? Here we are. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for going through that.
Sure.
I'm probably gonna have a lot more questions. I'll just ping you as we go, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do for the next session, and hopefully it'll be good for everybody to jump in and help contribute.
Yep. All right.
Cool. All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
Sure. You too.
See ya.